If you live in North America or a modern suburb in many parts of Europe or anywhere that has been cursed with some level of modernist and/or Marxist architecture, the chances are you live somewhere that is more ugly than it is beautiful. Welcome to Santa Cruz, California, one of the most expensive cities in the United States, which means it is one of the most expensive cities to live anywhere in the world. Now, of course, Santa Cruz does have pockets of genuine beauty, but these pockets are a lot smaller and rarer than they really should be for what this place is, which is the heart of the central coast of California. Let's take a walk. The neighborhood in the previous clip was very nice in its own right, with many cute houses and a park, although the roads were very wide and the sidewalk can only ever allow one person to walk through at a time. Yet, you walk over one block onto a major commercial road and you're hit with this. A loud, car-infested street with businesses and really ugly buildings, and still a super narrow sidewalk, because who would want to walk along here? And just to note, we are a 10-minute walk and a 2-minute drive from the city center. This ice cream shop is probably the only not ugly building on this entire street. Doesn't it just feel so barren, so lifeless? This corner is interesting because on all four sides are important businesses, including a Starbucks and a bank. These are places that people go to every day to get their morning coffee or to go to work, or use an ATM. But it has to be in this hostile environment. I didn't film myself walking across the street because it is that dangerous to do so here. And finally, another nice building, this being the tourist center for Santa Cruz. Although, it kind of is in the middle of nowhere. Across the street is actually the massive, always empty parking lot for the Brutalist City Hall, which stylistically could not differ more from the classic Santa Cruz aesthetic and culture. Considering that we are just over the hill from downtown, these businesses and empty spaces should just have been some mixed-use zoning, not whatever this is. A lovely abandoned house that is sitting on multi-million-dollar land. The grandiose stairs in front of this government building is funny considering that there will never be enough foot traffic to ever justify this. And while some of you might like this particular building's design, the other buildings in the complex are non-negotiably ugly. When it comes to this bridge, cool river, nice street lamps, but otherwise, well, yeah. And that building upcoming on the right is so terrible, it should be illegal to build. There are institutions that play a strong cultural and orderly role in human civilization that pre-modern humans especially understood and valued. These are religion, marriage, parenthood, education, money, but also architecture and design. And you can see this through just how much effort and detail went into the beauty of buildings and cities and historical places. In modern times, collectively, we have valued all these institutions less and less, with the exception of money and education, which are closely related anyways. And this can be seen through marriage rates, divorce rates, birth rates, all plummeting, or in the case of divorce rates rising, but also the uglification of our cities, of where we live, of where we work. How did this happen? Looking back at the Soviet Union, the bleak Soviet-style architecture, the mind-numbingly repetitive and demeaning communist blocks, all contributing to soulless and life-sucking cities, It's easy to think that this movement only happened here. They, of course, built this to strip the semblance of artistry, creativity, beauty, and pride in life and in the community, because this sort of blatant dehumanization hands people over to the state. It was all about control. And unfortunately, the Western architects of the 50s and 60s believed in doing this. After the atrocities of World War II, a lot of these architects felt that societally we needed this dehumanization, that we didn't deserve to live in beautiful and inspiring places. I remember being in the mesmerizing Gothic quarter of Barcelona, and across the plaza from the stunning Barcelona Cathedral in the heart of the historical center was this, the College of Architects of Catalonia, built in 1962. This insulting obtrusion that sits in the middle of historical Barcelona is not just bad taste. It's a message, a war cry against the tradition of building beautifully. And unfortunately for all of us, they won. You guys might say I'm just a hater and that these places really aren't so bad, but that's only because the standard has gone so low. This is why a place like Santa Cruz, that does have a historical section, natural beauty, and some semblance of architectural character in a few pockets, is extremely expensive and particularly renowned. The truth is that when you compare the US to, say, Europe, where virtually every city and town is built upon true beauty and care and design, you can see just how far behind we are. You might think that this is a kind of comparison that is dumb, and you can't possibly expect our cities to be up there with Annecy and Utrecht. But why not? These places were built hundreds of years ago with far more primitive technology and a much narrower worldview, and yet look at what they were able to produce. In the modern age, we have every capability to make our settlements look as beautiful, even surpass that of what exists. Something I find particularly interesting is how much we've learned to excel in interior design. We know how to make homes, cafes, restaurants, stadiums, and offices more aesthetic and enjoyable to be in than ever before. You'll hear about these hidden gems that from the outside are bland and dull, but on the inside come to life. We know how to create great places and still do in many ways, but we haven't brought what we are able to create on the interior onto the exterior in modern times. And not to get too political, but the US obviously has its series of problems right now, and I honestly think a lot of them can be solved, or at least in part be solved, through this sort of beautification. I truly believe the United States has been and has the means to continue to be the pearl of Western civilization, even all of civilization. We are built upon a foundation that anyone from anywhere in the world can live here, live a high quality of life here, and be a part of a system that sets the standard for freedom, prosperity, and good in the world. Yet, having lived here my whole life, there's this prevailing idea that the US has failed to do so, or at least has begun to fail to do so. That we're falling behind and the American dream is dead. Well, I don't agree with these propositions, but I can see why people think it. Just look outside and take a look. Beauty and viability are true indicators of greatness, and this has always been understood. Dr. Jordan Peterson has popularized the phrase, clean your room, in the context that before you can do anything influential or meaningful, you have to at least clean up your room to reach a certain level of order and maturity. We, being the US, have this beautiful house in a great neighborhood, a large bedroom with a cozy bed, a closet with the coolest and trendiest of clothes, an antique bookshelf, a gold necklace passed down through 5 generations, and the newest iMac on our desk. But our room is a mess. It's cluttered, filled with ugly knickknacks, a drab rug, laundry all over the floor. You get the idea. We've made a mess out of our beautiful land and our architectural foundations. We've made our cities in endless, sprawling suburbs that are hostile to walk in and not pleasing to look at. And this has substantial effects on our perception and appreciation for where we are and who we are as Americans. So let's clean our room and start making places that we can truly be proud of and be grateful to have the privilege to live and walk amongst.